All right, welcome back, and thank you very much for staying with us. The current rainfall pattern could not have come at a better time for the planting season. Farmers were skeptical as the dry spell delayed them to start with plowing the land after a slow start to the 2018-2019 summer crop season with severe dryness during the December period in parts of the Northwest and the Free State. Conditions rebounded early in January as the good rains provided the much-needed moisture for planting. So how will this affect crop production? We have Paul Makube, who is a Senior Agricultural Economist at FNB Agri-Business. Thank you very much for your time, sir.
Thank you for having me.
What do you make out of the dry season and the hot temperatures, and all of a sudden it starts raining? How did that affect the planting season?
Yes, initially it began in the east. That's where the earliest planting window opens. And then the west, is from early December onwards. But we now saw the dry spell during the December period, which means the soil is dry. The farmers cannot put the seed in the soil, so they had to wait for moisture to come, which is rains that should come. They didn't come at the right time. They came later in the season, and hence planting started late in the season. We got good rains. Started getting good rains from January, early January. Yes.
Yeah. So how does this season compare to the previous one?
The previous season was a normal one. We planted on time. We didn't have this kind of problem, and farmers were able to plant on time, and hence we were able to get a relatively better crop.
Now, what is the outlook of the harvest season, and are we expecting that the farmers will be able to harvest the expected crop production in terms of the numbers?
Okay. In terms of the numbers, I mean, the recent numbers that came out is the planting area, which is an indication of the amount of hectares that farmers have planted. Although down on last year about 2.2%, we still expect a relatively a good crop given the improved outlook for the season going forward. The only concern, bit of concern, is that most of the farmers, especially in the West, have planted late, which makes the crops vulnerable to frost damage as the season tails off. So, but in terms of production outlook, we expect the crop to be, if current conditions prevail, we expect the crop to be around 12 million, closer to 12 million tons, with consumption at about 10.8 million tons per year for South Africa. And we have a relatively good, carryover stock of about 3.22 million tons. That ensures, a relatively good supply for the rest of the season. And in terms of pricing, we have seen a, uptick in prices as weather, turned negative in December. Prices went up, but we will start seeing a slight moderation in prices, which is positive for inflation going forward.
So where does this position the yellow maize crop versus the white maize in as far as making up for the shortfall? Because if the National Crop Estimates Committee indicates that farmers planted lesser than they had expected, and the harvest may also be affected on the downside.
As I say, we sit with a good carryover stock, so that provides that kind of buffer. So, and in terms of use, there's always a substitution in cases where you run out of yellow maize. Remember, yellow maize is mostly used for livestock feed, and white maize is also used in livestock feed. But in terms of the supplies going forward, we are relatively well supplied, so there shouldn't be any problem with shortages going forward.
Right. So, in line with the weather forecasts, if we expect a dry spell again, and then we expect torrential rain, is it going to really interrupt the current plans that are in place in terms of the estimates, given the fluctuating weather patterns?
The outlook so far indicates a good finish to the crop season. So we don't expect any serious problems going forward. So but with weather, it's quite unpredictable. But the outlooks so far indicates that we are likely to see a relatively good finish to the season. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for making time to speak to us.
Thank you very much.
All right. We're speaking to Paul Makube, who is Senior Agricultural Economist at FNB Agri-Business. Let's now take a look at how the markets are doing.